Welcome back to Taylor's Detroit Sports. This is episode 39 on Spreaker. I'm Taylor Phillips. In this episode, we're going to talk Red Wings and Pistons and Michigan football and Michigan State football, the Wolverines and Spartans. First off, the Red Wings officially have the fourth best logo in the NHL, the National Hockey League, according to the Hockey News. Brendan Savage writes on MLive.com, the Chicago Blackhawks logo is ranked number 1, followed by the Arizona Coyotes, St. Louis Blues, Red Wings, and Buffalo Sabres. Arizona? Yep. THN panel liked the way the logo fits in with the color scheme of the Coyotes jerseys, and called it a good-looking canine. As for the Red Wings, here's what THN had to say about their logo. With the name, and I quote, with the name Red Wings came a logo that has stood the test of time and represents a perfect fit with the Motor City. Writes THN's Rory Boylan. THN is the Hockey News. The crisp, clean, detailed, yet simple red and white look has only been modified a couple times in team history and not since 1949. Because longevity was not a factor in our rankings, we had to look at this logo again for the first time, and we still loved it. Never was there any chance of the Red Wings falling out of the top 5. The only dissenting opinion we had was that it should have been higher than number 4. Where could the... I don't know where. There's no telling whether between 1 and 3 where they would rank the Red Wings. Where they should have ranked the Red Wings. Unquote. The Carolina Hurricanes have the worst logo in the NHL, according to the Hockey News. Rounding out the bottom 5 are the Colorado Avalanche, Washington Capitals, Vancouver Canucks, and Tampa Bay Lightning. So, what do you think of THN's rankings? Is the number 4 the right spot for the Red Wings logo compared to the others in the NHL? Should it be higher or lower? I'm going to get a sip of water real quick. Be right back. All right, I'm back. Former Red Wing Todd Bertuzzi's case is next. Ansar Khan writes on MLive.com, the Vancouver Canucks issued a settlement Wednesday confirming reports that a settlement has been reached in the lawsuit filed by Steve Moore against the team and former Detroit Red Wings Todd Bertuzzi. Steve Moore of the Colorado Avalanche. The Vancouver Canucks said in their statement, and I quote, Canucks Sports and Entertainment confirms that a mutually agreeable and confidential settlement of the action commenced by Steve Moore against Todd Bertuzzi and the Vancouver Canucks has been reached. The settlement is a result of mediation sessions with former Ontario Chief Justice Warren Winkler. No further details will be disclosed, and the Canucks respectfully decline a request for comment, unquote. The statement came hours after Moore's brother, Mark, told TSN that no deal is in place. Mark Moore told them, quote, I got a text message from Steve last night, and he's very concerned. He says there's no deal yet and isn't sure what to do about all the media speculation. Because of the injury, he has trouble making decisions, so he doesn't know how to handle the media, unquote. Todd Bertuzzi's attorney, Jeff Geoff Adair, told the Toronto Star on Tuesday that the case had been settled out of court earlier this month and that the terms would remain confidential. Moore was seeking $68 million in damages stemming from Bertuzzi's attack on March 8, 2004 in a game between Moore's Colorado Avalanche and Bertuzzi's Vancouver Canucks. Mark Moore said his mother and brother's legal team believe Bertuzzi's legal advisors are trying to pressure Moore to reach a settlement this month. Mark Moore also told TSN, quote, Bertuzzi is a free agent and he wants to sign a contract. They are trying to put on pressure. You see the Canucks have not made a statement, unquote. The case was scheduled to go to trial on September 8th. Two more Red Wings articles here. Up next, Brendan Savage writes, the NHL Network is trying to pick the greatest milestone moment of the 1990s, and the Detroit Red Wings have two candidates: the captain, Steve Yzerman's 500th goal, and Scotty Bowman's 1,000th coach win are among 10 moments fans can vote for at NHLnetwork.com. Yzerman scored number 500 on January 17, 1996 in a 3-2 victory over the Colorado Avalanche at Joe Louis Arena. That was on the year the Colorado Avalanche and Detroit Red Wings first met in the playoffs, in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And of course, you can recall by Claude Lemieux's vicious hit on Chris Draper at the bench. And that was the Achilles heel, the ultimate Achilles heel that lit up this rivalry between those two teams. Yzerman finished with 692 goals in 22 seasons, ninth most in NHL history. Bowman won his 1,000th game a little more than a year later in a 6-5 overtime victory at the Pittsburgh Penguins on February 8th, 1997, the year the Wings won their first Stanley Cup in 42 years. Bowman recorded 410 of his NHL record 1,244 victories during 9 seasons with the Wings. Yzerman, by the way, had a goal and 2 assists in Bowman's 1,000th victory. The other candidates are Wayne Gretzky's 800th goal, Mark Messier's 500th goal, Patrick Roy's 300th victory as a goaltender, Brett Hull's 500th goal, John Van Beesbrook's 300th win as a goaltender, Mario Lemieux's 600th goal, Ray Bourque's 1,000th assist, and Mike Gartner's 700th goal. The results will air Saturday on NHL Network. They already were aired. So you can view the final results on NHLnetwork.com, and I'm going to do the same thing. And while I wait for that to load, I'm trying to open the Red Wings Outlook edition. Their focus, current backup goaltender Jonas Gustafsson. Lots of Red Wing talk this episode. And on NHL Network, on NHLnetwork.com, I don't see anything. So I'm going to go to NHL.com. Jonas Gustafsson, by the way, is 29 years old, 6'3" tall, 6¼ inches tall, 192 pounds, played 27 games. His record, 16 wins, 5 regulation losses, and 4 overtime losses, which include shootout losses. He has a 2.63 goals against average, a .907 save percentage, 0 shutouts, and in the playoffs he was 0-2, 271 goals against average, a .917 save percentage, and no shutouts. And the candidates for top NHL milestone of the 90s can only be seen on television and not online. Check the TV guide for replays, if there are any. The Monsters' career stats: 141 games, 57, 52, and 20, 291 goals against average, 900 flat save percentage, 5 shutouts, and the playoffs. All the exact same numbers as this past postseason. He has 1 year remaining left on his contract, worth $1.85 million. Last year, he was named NHL's first star of the week for the period ending on October 20th, going 3-0-0 with a 167 goals against average and 953 save percentage. He didn't suffer his first regulation loss until his 10th start in Florida against the Panthers on December 7th. He won 5 consecutive starts on 2 occasions, November 21st to December 6th and December 19th to January 24th. The team averaged 3.26 goals per game in Gustafsson's 26 starts and just 2.32 goals per game in the other 56 games. They suffered regulation losses in back-to-back starts only once, December 14th through the 17th. He was forced to leave after the first period of a 2-0 win over Vancouver on February 3rd due to dizziness, relieved in an ailing Jimmy Howard due to a flu in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinal series against the Boston Bruins, who went on to lose in the second round of the Montreal Canadiens, making 37 saves in a 3-overtime loss in his first career playoff appearance. Also started Game 5 against the Bruins, a 4-2 loss in the series finale. Missed a total of 23 games with injuries, including 18 games on 3 separate occasions with a groin issue, October 2nd through 10th, December 30th through January 20th, and March 9th through 18th. Also missed 3 games with a neck strain, November 1st through the 4th, and 2 games with a sore shoulder, April 11th through 13th. He was the third goalie on the silver medal-winning Swedish Olympic team, dressing as the backup for 1 game but not appearing in any games. Can he finally, this upcoming season, the 2014-2015 season, the outlook? Can he finally avoid growing issues that idled him for almost all of 2013 and a big chunk of 2013-2014? Gustafsson played well when he was healthy, consistently giving the team a chance to win. The Monsters' performance was vital during a season in which starter Jimmy Howard struggled with consistency. The Red Wings opted to re-sign Gustafsson and keep promising prospect Peter Mrazek in Grand Rapids for another season where he can play 50 to 60 games, as opposed to starting sporadically as Howard's backup. They would like Gustafsson to play well enough to push Howard. The team supported Gustafsson well offensively. There is no guarantee of that happening again, so he'll need to improve on his goals against average and save percentage. The key question: did the team make the right decision in re-signing Gustafsson and keeping Mrazek in Grand Rapids with the Griffins? I want to get everyone's thoughts on that. Oh, I got one more Red Wings article. Ansar Khan writes, Ken Holland that is proud of his team's accomplishments, but seeks more playoff success. That's their general manager. To Holland, the main objective for a general manager is trying to build something that lasts for a while. When Holland was hired as the Wings GM in '97, the club was the reigning Stanley Cup champion and had been a contender for several years, in part due to Holland's work as the assistant GM and prior to that amateur scouting director. Since then, Holland has overseen one of the most successful runs in NHL history. 3 Stanley Cups, 4 President's Trophies, a league record 12 consecutive 100-point seasons, and a spot in the playoffs every year, 23 in a row altogether. That is all since they won their first Stanley Cup in '97, the first one in 42 years. That was their 7th Stanley Cup in franchise history. The Red Wings have built a program with staying power. Holland called it, quote, an incredible run, unquote, and he'll be around a while longer to try to maintain it after signing a 4-year extension with the Wings Thursday that runs through the 2017-2018 season. That was 2 Thursdays ago, actually. He said, quote, I'm as motivated and energized today as I was when I got the job in '97, unquote. The team has managed to retool on the fly, maintaining at least a playoff caliber club, while other organizations have experienced losing seasons while rebuilding. The Red Wings, however, haven't advanced past the second round of the playoffs since 2009 and have made quick exits in 2 of the past 3 seasons, winning only 1 game each year, which is a very minor concern. Maybe a little major as well, not too major. His task is to make this team a championship contender once again. He said, quote, "The league is tough, competitive. We have higher aspirations than being a bubble team, but we also respect that it's hard to make the playoffs. We want to continue to be a playoff team, but we want to make noise in the playoffs. That's what motivates me," unquote. Holland, who hopes to sign coach Mike Babcock to an extension before the season, is optimistic they have the right pieces despite returning virtually the same roster from 2013-2014 after striking out in free agency on the first day, July 1st, and not being able to swing a trade. That's because many key players who missed a significant portion of the season with injuries, including Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, Johan Franzen, Stephen Weiss, Darren Helm, and Jonathan Eriksson, will be ready to go at the start of training camp next month. Holland is also high on several young players who stepped up last season: Gustav Nyquist, Tomas Tatar, Riley Sheahan, Tomas Yurko, and Danny DeKaiser, and is excited about a number of prospects with the Grand Rapids Griffins, including Xavier Ouellet, Ryan Sproul, Alexei Marchenko, Matthias Backman, Peter Mrazek, Timu Pokkanen, and Anthony Mantha, who's preparing for his first pro season. Holland also added, quote, "We had a rough..." He also added, quote, "We've had a rough couple of years with injuries. The depth of the organization allowed us to stay in the race. We're trying to develop another core of players we hope can play their way into being Red Wings and support the players that have been here a while. That's what I'm excited about." Several core players are well into their 30s. Datsyuk at age 36, Zetterberg 33, Kronwall 33, and Franzen 34. So there is urgency to win now. He said, quote, We overhauled the team in the early 2000s and made a nice run. We're in the process of overhauling the team again," unquote. Good luck with that. The Red Wings are only one of 2 clubs that have qualified for the playoffs every year since the salary cap was implemented in 2005-2006. The San Jose Sharks are the other team. Holland added one more explanation. Quote, "No doubt prior to 2005 we had a money advantage, but we made good decisions. We had no top 10 picks since 1991. We had to draft and develop. I'm proud of what the pro scouts, the amateur scouts, and the coaching staffs have done. I'm proud of a lot of our accomplishments, but I also know the last 3 years we've won one playoff round. We want to go on a longer playoff run, want to compete for a Stanley Cup," unquote. So, how do you think the Red Wings will do this upcoming season come 2015? So, I have finally talked all Red Wings tonight. Now to some Pistons news. What they're saying, Team USA couldn't leave Detroit Pistons' Andre Drummond at home. Brendan Savage writes, A potential matchup with Spain in the World Cup championship game helped Drummond land a spot on Team USA, according to Mark Stein of ESPN.com. The Detroit Pistons center has the type of size and skills the U.S. brass thinks the Americans will need if they play Spain for the gold medal September 30th, as many expect. So Team USA Managing Director Jelly Colangelo and head coach Mike Krzyzewski from Duke awarded Drummond the 12th and final spot on a team that also includes big men Anthony Davis of New Orleans, DeMarcus Cousins of Sacramento, and Mason Plumlee of the Brooklyn Nets. The New Orleans Pelicans, Sacramento Kings. Colangelo added to Stein's story, quote, "This gives us an opportunity to do some things we haven't had a chance to do in the past. It's true that the preferred style of play has been going small, but you have to ask, was that by choice or by necessity? Early on this summer, we said it would be hard to carry four bigs, but that was kind of put on the shelf," unquote. There had been speculation that Drummond would be one of the four players cut before the Americans left Saturday for Spain, where they'll play their final exhibition game Tuesday versus Slovenia. The World Cup begins August 30th. That is this upcoming Saturday. Drummond sat out Friday's route over Puerto Rico and has appeared in just one Team USA's 3 exhibitions, scoring 12 points to go with 5 rebounds and a block in 16 minutes of a victory over the Dominican Republic on Wednesday. He also didn't play in the U.S. victory over Brazil. Colangelo also added, quote, "Drummond is a blossoming center in the NBA. He's just a kid, but he's come a long way in a very short period of time. We see him as a big part of our future. It's a little bit similar to Anthony Davis getting his opportunity in London." Maybe it kind of catches people by surprise. Yes, he's young, but a 7-foot, 280-pound guy who can run the floor the way Drummond runs and who protects the rim. When you describe all the physical attributes, that's a hard call to leave a guy at home, unquote. Here's some more stories the ESPN.com website put together that involved Drummond. Number 1, the U.S. roster that's loaded with big men was constructed with an eye on Spaniards, writes Sekou Smith, S-E-K-O-U, Sekou Smith. Quote, "The need for 3 backup centers is a bit puzzling, especially since Davis will likely rank first or second on the team in minutes played. 2 of 3 backups will certainly have limited roles, but the U.S. may have its sights set on the front line of Spain, which features a Marc Gasol, Pau Gasol, and Serge Ibaka. The hosts are the clear favorites to reach the gold medal game for the other side of the bracket, though they'll have a tougher road than the Americans," unquote. Number 2, Team USA has special duties in mind for Drummond during the World Cup, writes Fran Fraschilla. Quote, "While Drummond is still a work in progress, it was his energy, attitude, and immense size that did the trick for him. He has 3 main roles on this team: protect the rim, crash the offensive glass, and sit patiently on the bench until called on," unquote. And finally, number 3, Drummond didn't play versus Puerto Rico because the decision to keep him had already been made, Stein writes. Quote, "Lillard, DeRozan, and Drummond, like Hayward, didn't play a single second against Puerto Rico. But Krzyzewski and Colangelo apparently had already decided that DeRozan and Drummond, 2 standouts in Wednesday night's victory over the Dominican Republic at Madison Square Garden, had shown enough to secure spots," unquote. And one more article, and we finally go to college football. Starting with the maize and blue. I promise we'll get to the Spartans real quick. Michigan Wolverines football head coach Brady Hoke's team is stocked with talent players. Attracting recruits to Ann Arbor hasn't been a problem, but his staff needs to prove that it can mold that talent into an elite team. Last season's 7-6 collapse, including the controversial loss to Ohio State at the Big House, has placed the program under the microscope. Under examination will be an offense that is being rebuilt to run the football that is, with an offensive line that struggled mightily last season due to old offensive coordinator Al Borges. The team's best hope for success will be for its defense to stem the tide until the offense can find its way. See, they have a new offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier. Hoke is 26-13 overall during his tenure at Michigan, but 15-11 during the last two seasons. The Wolverines have dropped 6 out of their last 8 games. Hoke and his staff need to produce this season to stop the murmurs of discontent in Ann Arbor. The slide led to offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier being hired with a mandate to fix the team's running attack. Nussmeier is working with longtime Michigan assistant Fred Jackson, who has mentored some of the best running backs in team history. With a stable of talented running backs, this season will be his chance to prove that he can still develop elite talent. Offensive line coach Darryl Funk under scrutiny after his position group struggled last season. The offensive line was one of the team's weakest position groups, despite the presence of 2 eventual NFL draft picks, Taylor Lewan and Michael Schofield. Funk needs to build a stronger line this season, or the team will repeat last year's disappointment. Maybe at least a bit worse. Hoke also shuffled his defensive staff. Coordinator Greg Madison has taken over the linebackers, and the backfield duties have been split between Kurt Mallory, the safeties coach, and Roy Manning, the cornerbacks coach. The backfield move was made to give the players more coaching attention to deal with the proliferation of spread offenses. What to watch for on offense? One of the main problems last year was the inconsistency of the offensive line. 9 players rotated through the 5 offensive positions, and Hoke has lost 2 of his most talented linemen to the NFL. Rebuilding the line is the biggest obstacle Michigan faces while trying to roll out its new offense. The talk out of camp is that last year's position group struggled with off-the-field distractions and a lack of senior leadership. This year's group is more unified and hopes to be greatly improved with another year of game experience and weight training under its collective belt. The key players to watch are center Jack Miller and tackle Mason Cole. Miller was over his head last season, but has improved greatly, according to Hoke. Cole is a true freshman who has seized the starting position at left tackle. If either of those players struggle, it will speak volumes to the level of talent on the offensive line and lack of improvement over last season. And there's the depth chart. Nussmeier has on all teams, offense, defense, and special teams. Nussmeier has simplified the playbook in an attempt to jumpstart the running game. Derek Green, 20 pounds lighter than last season, and Davion Smith have battled for the starting job all spring and throughout fall camp while being pressed by Drake Johnson and Justice Hayes. Transfer Ty Isaac is also waiting on word of his eligibility. The running game could be back in a big way if the offensive line can open up some holes. Quarterback Devin Gardner returns for his senior season while learning the 3rd offensive scheme of his career. Gardner showed his toughness last season playing injured versus Ohio State, but will need to show restraint in the new offense. Last season he was the offense. This year he'll need to become more of a game manager, distributing the ball to his running backs and receivers. Another huge question on offense is who will emerge in the receiving ranks. Wide receiver Devin Funches will be Gardner's top target. Freshman Freddie Canteen has also emerged as a starter, but the graduation of Jeremy Gallen and Drew Dillio, along with the injury of tight end Jake Butt, has depleted the number of experienced receivers available to Gardner. There's a huge opportunity for Amara Darbo, J.U. Chesson, and freshman Maurice Ways to fill the gap. What to watch on defense? The defense looks to improve after a lack of depth at key positions contributed to Michigan's 1-4 November collapse last season. Top linebacker Jake Ryan has been moved to the middle and should benefit, along with fellow linebackers Desmond Morgan and James Ross from Madison taking over the position group. The defensive line is solid with Frank Clark and Brennan Byer at the ends and Andre Pipkins and Willie Henry at the tackles. The team needs a solid season from backups Brian Moan, or Monet, whichever you pronounce it, Chris Wormley, and Taco Charlton, or Charlton. The defense weakened last season when the line wore down as the season progressed. The ability for the backups to improve and pressure off opposing offenses will be vital. The most interesting position battle on defense will be in the backfield, where Blake Countess and Raymond Taylor are being tested by Jordan Lewis, Channing Stribling, and top recruit Jabril Peppers for playing time. Peppers will start the season at nickel, but will soon challenge the incumbents for time at the corner. At safety, Delano Hill and Jared Wilson will be pressed by Diamante Thomas and Jeremy Clark. Overall, the defense is expected to be very good and possibly great if Peppers can fulfill his potential and the defensive line can consistently pressure opposing quarterbacks. Injury news: the loss of Jake Butt at tight end is a serious blow to an offensive low on experienced receivers. His rehab is going well, and his return is expected by the start of the Big Ten season. Until then, A.J. Williams will need to fill in as a receiver and blocking, supplementing the offensive line. And then there's the schedule. And predictions. Now on to Michigan State football, real quick. Michigan State went from 7-6 in the Big Ten. Also ran a 13-1 Big Ten champion last season, winning the Rose Bowl as well, which on the surface made it seem like one of the most improved teams in the country, but it wasn't. Yes, MSU was one of the best teams in the country, but it didn't have to improve too much to get there. It was never really all that bad. The 7-6 season in 2012 was hampered by bad luck in one-score games, but according to the F/Plus ratings at Football Outsiders, Mark D'Antonio's team was still one of the 15 best in college football. All of which is to say, well, that you shouldn't write this team off as a fluke. Last year required some magic, but in many ways it was the culmination of a 7-year building project, not some arbitrary blip on the radar. Care to guess how many teams have won 11 or more games at least 3 times since 2010? The answer is 5. South Carolina, Oregon, Stanford, Alabama, and Michigan State. D'Antonio has done a heck of a job turning little brother into a full-grown man, and this year's team, which debuted in the top 10 of both major preseason polls, has a chance to be his best. But there isn't that much further to climb. This team either contends to make and win the college football playoff, or it takes a step back. Which one do you think it will be? There's the coaching staff. Pat Narduzzi could have been gone by now. He could have been a head coach elsewhere, most notably Connecticut, but he turned down the job. According to D'Antonio, that wasn't the only one. Instead, the the eighth-year defensive coordinator and reigning Broyles Award winner, nation's top assistant coach, was rewarded internally with a massive raise. With a new annual salary of $904,583, he becomes one of the highest-paid assistants in the country, and it's impossible to say he hasn't earned it. Narduzzi's return is a big reason folks remain so keen on this year's defense despite some important personnel losses. As long as he and D'Antonio are running the show, there is only so far it can fall. But credit should also be given on the other side of the ball, where what started as an anemic offense eventually found its stride in the second half of the season. Former Ohio State offensive coordinator Jim Bollman was a controversial hire last offseason, and the japes at his expense got louder when Michigan State's offense was getting outscored by its defense in the first few games of the year. By the end of the season, Bollman had the last laugh. No one is going to confuse this offense for Auburn's nor Bollman. Anyway, what to watch for on offense? There's the depth chart on offense. Andrew Maxwell took the first step of the season for Michigan State last year. Riley Bulla was one of his feature running backs, and Aaron Burbridge was one of his most important receivers. Man, what a difference a year makes. Connor Cook relieved Maxwell of his duties after just a few games, and even though it wasn't all sunshine from the beginning, lest we forget Cook's own benching on the final drive in the loss at Notre Dame, it eventually worked out better than anyone could have expected. But it would have given Michigan State a shot at the national championship BCS national championship last season. Jeremy Langford got 1,400 yards last year. They also got right tackle Donovan Clark, DeAnthony Arnett, transferring from Tennessee, Benny Fowler. And what to watch on defense? Shalik Calhoun, Damian Knox, Joel Heath, Marcus Rush, Darian Harris, Riley Bulla on the second team. New Sam linebacker Ed Davis, who will take over for Denikos Allen after showing well in limited time last season. He might be the breakout star of the group. As far as the defensive line is concerned, there's an interesting contrast that might make the depth chart above sort of misleading. Damon Knox has thrown a wrench in the defensive tackle rotation, likely pushing Thomas into the starting role. And the injury news, Damon Knox and offensive guard Connor Cruz with both with undisclosed injuries and indefinite, and offensive guard Zach Higgins with a torn ACL out for the entire season. The X Factor cornerback Darian Hicks, standing 5'10". There's the schedule and predictions. That's all I have to fit in for episode 39. So I won't be back on Spreaker with episode 40 until Tuesday night. That is after the Tigers take on the Yankees at Comerica Park in Game 1 of the 3-game series. Tuesday through Thursday, 7:08 is the start time as always at Comerica Park on Fox Sports Detroit and 97.1 The Ticket, WXYT FM and HD1 in Detroit, and the Detroit Tigers Radio Network. So until then, this is Taylor Phillips saying TTFN, ta-ta for now.